we are going to look at another way that chords tend to move. But in order to understand how this is going to go, you need to understand first a musical theory concept called tritone substitution. Tritone substitution. Now, this is kind of a complex musical theory concept, but I'm going to simplify this for you. There's just a couple things you need to know before I show you what this looks like. And one is tritone substitution only happens for dominant chords. Dominant. Remember, there's three families or types of chords: major, minor, and dominant. So this will only apply for the dominant family or category or types of chords. Okay, so to best illustrate this to you visually, because once you see it, you will have an aha and it will totally make sense. You will want to make sure you watch my lessons on the jazz chord series that I did. I showed you 3 jazz chords with the root on the E string here. And I had another video on 3 jazz chords on where the root falls on the A string. And so in those 2 videos, I showed you one way each for each of those on how to play a dominant chord. So let's do this on the G here. So when the root's on the G, a dominant chord looks like that. It's got that pattern. Well, when the root is on, let's go to here, D now. The root's on the A string, the dominant chord looks like that. Let me put up the other one. I'm just going to pick another note here. Let's do F dominant. So regardless if the dominant chord's root is on the E string or on the A string, I want you to see this. I'm going to take the roots out. Look at that. The pattern is exactly the same. You see? So I'll show you what I mean. If I had the root here, which makes that would be a B dominant. Well, that is the same as if it was an F dominant chord. These 2 notes stay exactly the same. What moves is this bass or root note from here to there. And this relationship is what a tritone is. A tritone is basically a flat 5th interval or distance away. Okay? So on the fretboard, this is what that looks like. So I'm going to pick a note here. A tritone is going to be 1 string away, 1 fret away, this distance. From here is the same. 1 string away, this distance. Same from here. 1 string away, this distance. Now I'm not going to use these 2 strings on the guitar because I want this to be for bass or guitar, but it creates, a tritone creates this diagonal relationship. You see from here, if you're going backwards, it's the opposite. Goes to the left 1 string away. But it creates this diagonal line. That's what a tritone distance is. And so you can see how this is all related now when you look at, let's go, A dominant. If you were to do a tritone substitution on this A, well, all you do is move the bass note a tritone away. Remember, tritone is there. So these two notes would share the same two notes between an A dominant, or you can call it a D sharp or an E flat here, E flat dominant. That's why you can substitute these two, because it uses these two common chords. Now you might be wondering, what does that have to do with chord movement? And that all boils down to this. So we looked at how chords like to move in cycle of fourths. But there is also something very pleasing to the human ear when chords move chromatically. Chromatically. Yeah, let me put this. Chromatic movement. We love to hear when chords move chromatically, up or down, ascending or descending. And when tritone substitutions are used, they tend to be moving in a descending way. Okay? So let me show you how all this looks on the fretboard. Let me get my red. Whoop, actually, let me go down here. So the most common jazz progression is your 2, 5, 1 progression, right? Where 2's minor, 5 is dominant, 1 is major, big M. Okay, so 2 to 5 is a cycle of fourth away, and 5 to 1 is a cycle of fourth away. But it can also sound good if you make this chromatically. Now let me show you how this works. We're gonna do this in the key of G now. Okay, so there's 1 there. Well, 2 is here. That's 2. 5 is here. And 1 is here. This is just the bass notes, but it goes 2, a jump, a fourth, jump, another fourth, which here's the octave. So that's why 2, 5, 1 sound cool, because it follows the cycle of fourths. However, look at this. If 5 is here, well, what if I substitute, because 5 is a dominant chord, a tritone? And remember, a tritone, here, let me draw the 5 chord, the full chord here. Let me make this a little, let's use the blue color for 5. So a 5 chord would look like that. But what if I substituted a tritone substitution for this 5 dominant chord? Now remember, all I would have to do is move this bass diagonally either here, which I don't want to do because I'm already playing this, or I go this way to the left. Well, if I did that, now look at this. I have a chromatically descending bass line from 2, 5, 1. But technically, it's still a 2, 5, 1. I'm just substituting this note. So if you were to go and play a 2 minor 5, but substituted that 5 so that it's now a flat 2 dominant chord, right? Tritone substitution. To the 1, it's going to have this chromatic movement, which will sound really, really cool. I'll give you one more example, and you can go play around with this because I can only show you how to, in concept, in theory, how this works, but you're going to have to play it to get your musical aha. But another common progression would be a 2, 5, 1, and what's called a 6 dominant. That's a secondary dominant used because 6s normally are minors. So if you did this, your bass line or chord movement would look like this. Once again in G, 2, 5, 1, and the 6 would be here. So it's kind of scattered all around. But if you used a tritone substitution for this 6 dominant and this 5 dominant, this is what it would look like. 2 would be played here. 5 is here, but remember, I'm going to tritone substitute to the 2 here, to the 1 here. Now watch this. 6 dominant, let me use a different color. Normally would be like this. Remember, root on A string, so that's the shape for the dominant chord. But once again, I'm going to substitute tritone substitution for this chord so that it's here. So now you have a 2, substitution for the 5, substitute, oh, well, not substitute, but the actual 1, and then it's going to skip up to here for the 6 dominant, and it's going to start all over descending chromatically. So you have 4 notes that descend in a row chromatically, and that will sound really pleasing and cool to the ear. So there you have it, tritone substitution. I hope that made sense for you. To see it visually for me makes, I don't even really want to hear it until I can see it. And then once I see it and I understand it, I can go and play it, and it will actually affirm and it will confirm what you know to be true to how it sounds. There you go.